Hello everyone and welcome to the highlights video of the Race Indy Pro Championship. Round 4, we're looking at the qualifying lap first, just as usual. Round 4 took place at the Virginia International Raceway, and yeah, qualifying hasn't been too good for us. We struggled a full lot with the car during the week, and also the fact that we were out on Sunday in Switzerland at Racing Unleashed probably didn't help. So you can see a quite poor lap, and you can see just from looking at it, missing apex turn 1, losing valuable time here, playing it a little bit safe due to the fact we compromised our practice a little bit. Anyway, not really carrying enough of speed into this corner 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 complex. Reminds a lot of a very technical section, and reminds a little bit of Circuit of the Americas, a little bit of Circuit Silverstone. But as you can see, we're quite a few tenths off the pace in Sector 1 already. Then taking it a little too easy into this downhill left-hander, and then the hairpin. We struggled so much with it, not carrying enough of speed, having an oversteering moment on the exit of the hairpin. So another kinda bad Sector 2. You can see this right there in the split, as once again we are over 5/10 off the pace here. So going into the final sector, another slide there on turn 15. So much hesitation going on while appliement of throttle, and yeah, the lap overall not the very best, not really good. Therefore, again, roughly 8/10 off the pace. Into P10 we go, which was still a surprise to me, because I did not expect myself to really make it into the top 10, but on the gaps you can already see that this was a kind of two-class qualifying. The guys that go into the sub 30s, sub 31s, and the guys like me heading the 131 runner. So P10 it is for the sprint race, 10 laps at Virginia on the alternate tire we choose. And this was quite an interesting thing, because in the 4th round, it's like the first time ever the majority of the top 10 runners ran on the alternate tires. Due to the fact the setup has been very difficult to drive, drivers went for as much grip as possible for the sprint race. As we are on the way to the start, pole setter Martin Stefanko controlling the pace, and off we go into the race. Green flag drops, we immediately jump a spot here on Peter Berjak, but yeah, either bad line choosing or simply a little bit of bad luck with nearly running out of space and losing the rear. Costs us this P9 again, and we lose it to Peter Berjak in the first couple of meters again. Anyway, the first lap not too eventful, as you quite imagine that the cornery sections of the circuit will not allow for overtakings, despite the grid is still pretty close together. So we had nothing else to do than sit in the slipstream and wait for some race action to unfold. Means we're jumping right into lap number 2. And right at the same spot, just a lap later, we have a chance on having a look at Peter Berjak, who makes a little mistake, taking the curb too hard, but on the outside line it's just way too dangerous for us to really attempt to move. And then on the back straight, I want to call it, well, despite sitting in the slipstream, you know, Berjak had the slipstream as well. So one lap later we saw Berjak then taking on the action on Jan Woznicka round the outside into turn 1, but despite Woznicka was on the hard tire, he defended nicely from that. So we try ourselves to have a little bit of a look at Petar, but yeah, really pointless at this stage to have a look into it. So later this lap then, Berjak had another chance on the back straights, and yeah, with the alternate tire being just so much more better out of the hairpin, in the acceleration zone, and with a long straight and a long slipstream to go, he eventually makes the move stick and runs up into P8, while we also were quite close on Woznica, so we tried ourselves to stick with Peta and maximized everything we had here onto start-finish straight. Into the slipstream we go, and yeah, turn 1 is a difficult one to overtake as there is a little right king, so we had to throw a dummy around the outside to then go into the inside, but eventually we outbrake ourselves, and that meant it's not only Woznica that came back through, but also nearly David Mojek, who we eventually were able to re-overtake into turn 4. Vital for us to keep that spot in order to make our own strategy work. Anyway, just one lap later on the back straight, we were then close enough for a move on Woznica. So as I already mentioned, the primary tyre not as grippy, even more wiggling on the exit out of this hairpin, so that gave us a good chance on doing a move around the outside in Woznica. But due to the fact that we also nearly lost the rear end on the exit, it was a quite tight one, and once again Woznica tried to defend himself nicely into P15, into turn 15, and we're gonna have a look at that from the TV camera. So you see fair and square and nice racing between Jan and me here, always just a little bit of space, no touch, no contact, just nice racing around there. Into lap 5 we go, and yeah, it was our time to do the moves on the primary runners. So it's just a carbon copy of the move on Woznica. Costa runs a little wide with the primary tyre, then doesn't have the performance on the exit, which allows us just to set into a slipstream and attempt to move into P8. Race wasn't done yet though, as we jump into lap 7, and lap 7, Briak once again tried it around the outside, this time on Maciej Cinczyk, and again eventually Cinczyk fought back initially, but both of the guys are having trouble getting the power down. Eventually Briak passes by, and yeah, we also had an opportunistic look into Cinczyk. We happily backed out of it there at turn 4, but later the lap we do have the chance to overtake Cinczyk into P7, and that was about it what happened in the sprint race. Martin Stefanko had massively bad luck and disconnected from 3rd spot on the primary tyre, so that was a freebie for us going into P6, and as the top 10 were moved around, that meant Jan Woznica was taking pole position while we slipped into 5th place on the grid for the upcoming feature race. Looking into the feature race then, we had to take the prime tyre due to the fact we ran the option tyre or the alternate tyre in the sprint race, so we were committed for another 3-stop strategy, and we had a good start, which meant we didn't sleep, but effectively we were also maximizing things on the brakes. So Lalu on the left hand side kind of being a little bit too eager and a little bit too shy, so eventually, despite he had the alternate tire on the start, we took position from him into P4, being another prime runner behind Cinczyk in the first lap. So that was a very interesting move, and surely got us in a good position to start this race. But of course, as we do know that the primary tyre isn't the most grippy tyre, into lap 2 we go, and yeah, you can imagine what happens if we're here at the hairpin. The usual thing, wheel spin, no grip with the prime tyre in the beginning stages of the race, so Lalu into the slipstream and a kinda easy pass on us. We're back in P5. That yet alone wasn't a big tragedy, but of course, due to the fact that the tyres aren't in very bad shape, we had more issue to come, and we didn't really get affiliated and used to this set of tires. So Hedda Berjak himself, also on the primes, took the action and took away 5th place from us. Even a lap later, this happened. So we're coming up turn 12, and for the first time we just understeer and run wide into the grass. Very, very lucky to not have initially spun and lost any further positions, but we broke our front right suspension at this point, which of course wouldn't help, and then later on this straight Costa just streamed by us into P7 we dropped, and that was also, besides the fact that we just had this issue, I was planned to go into pit row on lap 4 because it was just the smartest thing to do with a 3-stop strategy. I had minimized the time on the primes, and that's eventually what we did, while minimizing also the pit stop time and the efficiency on that. Anyway, that early pit stop of course meant that we hopefully come out into clean air, therefore took another set of alternate tires. Low grip on the track, higher grip on the tire could eventually make life easier from us, and while going out of pit row we got overtaken there by Musculi, so into P21 we dropped after this first pit stop. Anyway, action wasn't long to come, as you've seen, I think Geoffrey Fournier round the on the outside there, which we overtook. So coming onto Musculi, we were trying to get past him, but we were so close on the exit that nearly we ran out of slipstream before eventually making a move there. Anyway, into P20 we go, but drama was a little bit about to happen, as we had Jene Simoncic also on our rear wing. Excuse me, Jene Simoncic it is, and yeah, as he was teammate, we just decided to let him pass because he was so much more quicker and was on the move towards the front of the grid. Into lap 8 we go, as we are chasing down Chris Shepherd into lap 9, into turn 1, and once again we threw the dummy around the outside to then pinch in the inside, late on the brakes, but this time maximizing the performance of the alternate tires and using it against the prime runner Shepherd there. Into P18 we went there, and then 2 laps later on the back end of Kasper Stolze, who again was replacing Caruso. And I gotta say, great racecraft. I gotta say thank you very much for playing with me here and eventually backing out so I could complete that twitchy and dangerous move. And speaking about dangerous, 5 laps later we did the second mistake in the same spot, losing the car, more damage to the suspension done, and also after a couple of pit stops were done we dropped from 5th to 7th, and decided after the spin, due to the fact the tires were nearly done anyway, to go for our second pit stop. So on another set of option or alternate tires we went on in lap 17 to try to go and climb up further on the grid, yet though due to the pit we dropped from 7th into P15. So leaving pit road in clean air though meant that we could eventually make up some time and make up some spots, so fairly important that we also came out of ahead of the car behind. And then into lap 24 we go. Carl Shy, a very late move from us on the brakes, nearly losing the car into turn 1, but maximizing everything we got into P8. Carl Shy didn't really give up though, it was his good right to do so, but eventually we kept our nose ahead and we knew we had to run. So therefore we'll try pushing, and drama unfolds as we lose the car in turn 13 into the hairpin, and we're losing the suspension front left, we're losing the tire, we lost the rear wing actually, and the grass was so bumpy, the track was so bumpy, and the car was so difficult to drive. I tried to limp it back into the pit, but that felt like way too much damage to make it home safely. And after I lost it here again, crashing into the next wall, I had to back out of it and really admit this was going to be a DNF. Into P19 we could have had, if we made it back to the pits, vital points for the championship, but we scored none. And that was costly for us. Despite we didn't lose a spot in the top 8, but we definitely lost connection to Pela in the championship on the drivers. In the meanwhile, Yane at the front, due to the disconnect of Martin Stefanko, rebuilt his lead in the championship, but on the constructors, due to my issue, due to my fault, instead of being like 3 or 4 points behind Evolution, we're 16 points away, going into the final 2 races of the season, which will be oval races at Appleville Speedway and the Indy 300 in the end in the next 2 and 3 weeks coming up. Guys, I thank you so much for watching. It was the first DNF for me in a long time, and surely a hurting one, but I appreciate you guys' time watching this video. If you do appreciate it and if you do like what we do, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. And then I hope I'll see you guys for the final 2 oval races on rFactor 2 in the Indy Pro Championship by FSR.